disgusting that people from the same fucking group are bashing each other and going back and forth, all because of what comes down to complexion, how someone looks, basically. You can be darker than me, you can be lighter than me, and you could still be indigenous. You might look like you're white, but you could be indigenous. You might look like you're black, but you could be indigenous. So can we please stop the bullshit and come together? Like,
bombastic side-eye, criminal offensive side-eye.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name's Yona, and today I want to talk about this video I came across on Instagram. I will show you the full video of this clip I just showed you earlier, but I want to talk about something very quickly because y'all already know what I'm going to say. If you are new to my channel, buckle up because I am not your average Eumelanated Indigenous person. I am not we are the world. I am you're going to treat me with respect or you're going to have to walk out the door. And the problem that I have with her message is not the fact that she wants people to come together. Because who doesn't want people to come together? Who doesn't want peace? Who doesn't want, you know, everybody to come to a mutual agreement? That is understandable. But however, what she is talking about would be treasonous not only to ourselves, but to our elders, our ancestors, our heritage, our legacies. Because why would you want unity with people who are colonizers, who have the same amount, if not more, European ancestry or European DNA? These people that she is saying, oh, it's indigenous people coming at each other's throats when they're both indigenous. You know, they can be white looking and be indigenous. They could be black looking and looking indigenous. Well, let me tell you something. If someone is white appearing, they are not indigenous. I don't care how many books y'all come across that talk about the primitive, quote unquote, white nations that were here before Columbus. We know that Leif Erikson was in the Americas over 1,000 years ago. Okay. Now, him and his crew packed their stuff up and exit stage left, or so they say, because he did not stay in the Americas that long. Okay. And one thing I want to point out is that if we know Leif Erikson and his crew came over to the Americas over 1,000 years ago, then that means that there are other Europeans that have attempted or have done the same thing. Now, just because Europeans came over to the Americas prior to Columbus does not mean that Europeans are indigenous or original to the Americas too. And I think this is why I have people come onto my page sometime and say this nonsense, because not only do natives come on my page and say whites are indigenous too, but now I'm having you melanated people saying white people are indigenous too. And honestly, this just shows how brainwashed and whitewashed a lot of you melanated indigenous people are. It's crazy how many you melanated people are willing to throw themselves at the altar of self-sacrifice just so these people can be in their presence, just so these people can acknowledge them, just so these people can be friendly towards them. Over validating pale natives is dangerous. And a lot of you melanated American people still yet to figure this out. Many of these pale natives, these white appearing natives, they have $5 Indian their way into our communities. Like, does this woman not know what a $5 Indian is? Does she not know how pale Europeans were being adopted into American Indian tribes to replace us? Does she not know that pale people were given land allotments that was supposed to be given to you melanated indigenous people, but instead given to pale European quote unquote settlers? I'm honestly real tired of you melanated indigenous people like her that is always advocating for unity with these people when these people know good and well they don't want unity. If these people wanted unity, they would have done the right thing by now. They would have already accepted the darker skinned Indigenous members by now. They would have shared the resources by now. They would have shared the money by now. They would have shared the spotlight by now. And they would have apologized by now. But guess what? They haven't. Because they don't care. These people don't care. They see our people struggle every day. Hell, we see them struggle every day. And us see them struggling is us watching their karma for how they treated us. And y'all still want to sit there and be like, oh my God, we got to help them. We got to come together. No, they ain't no coming together with people that teamed up with pale Europeans to take us down, to take away our identity, to take away what belonged to us. Get out of here with that. All this begging and crying for unity sounds very desperate.
Y'all be weak in the knees. Stand up! Stand up!
And another thing I want to mention is how people rarely involve our elders in this conversation. Do people not think of our elders as the people that seen the divide firsthand? No one never talks about the trauma our elders endured and talked about giving them a proper apology and making things right. But somehow, you melanated Indigenous people, we have to compromise. Nah, I don't think so. Our elders, our ancestors deserve so much more. How can anybody with high amounts of European ancestry be the real people? And how dare you count them as the original people? Okay, but I'm just going to go ahead and show y'all the full video because y'all just got to listen to it first before I go all in because I got so much to say. But without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and show y'all the full video because it is kind of long. And then I'm going to show y'all the comment section and then I'm going to come back with further commentary.
Comment right here. First, thank you for this wonderful comment. Two, I want to talk about something. Why is there such a disconnect between Indigenous people and Indigenous people? I used to identify as Afro-Indigenous until I learned the truth. Many of us are told that we are African descent. And although I have Native and Indigenous ancestry on both of my parents' sides, it's still presumed that I have African ancestry. When in fact, I probably don't, or it's very small. The more I dive deep into my ancestry, genealogy, and I'm really learning and picking apart all of this history that nobody in my family wants to talk about, I'm learning the truth. Like many of you, that is the same thing that you're probably dealing with. So again, Native and Indigenous people come in all complexions, all shades. There is no one color fits all. Many Indigenous people appear to look like they're black or so-called African American, but they're actually Indigenous. So why are people from the same fucking group always at each other's throats? Yes, there's racism within every ethnicity, every group, but it's absolutely fucking ridiculous, the narratives that go back and forth within the same group. You are literally giving the colonizers exactly what they wanted. You are giving Walter Plecker exactly what he wanted. It's a known fact that race was changed on so many people's birth certificates and vital statistics or records. So can we please stop this bullshit? Because for someone who is reconnecting like myself, and for those who are very new to reconnecting, it's very discouraging. It's actually disgusting that people from the same fucking group are bashing each other and going back and forth, all because of what comes down to complexion, how someone looks, basically. You can be darker than me, you can be lighter than me, and you could still be Indigenous. You might look like you're white, but you could be Indigenous. You might look like you're black, but you could be Indigenous. So can we please stop the bullshit and come together? Like, really? Our ancestors did not survive and go through what they went through for this to occur. And that's just my 2 cents. I will always be real, but I do not tolerate bullshit or all this like nonsense that's going on back and forth between the same group of people, essentially.
Y'all watched the video and read the comment section, and look, I find it very odd that she added a disclaimer saying, and I quote, "And no, I'm not saying all brown people are indigenous," in this video. But where's the disclaimer for the white looking natives that she is claiming that are indigenous as well? Why is it there are so many brown people that are willing to over validate pale European natives in our nations and in our homeland? It's really odd. It's odd that there are so many melanated American people that are willing to extend arms to people that look the total opposite of them. But when it comes to unity with each other, it's, oh, I can't mess with them because they this and they that and they do this. And I'm not saying that she does this. However, I just think it's odd. I just think it's odd how she over validated pale natives without even mentioning them that much. I'm gonna tell y'all something right now that a lot of you melanated indigenous people tend to ignore. There is a reason why so many foreigners call you melanated indigenous people feeble minded. All people have to do from different nations, right? Especially if they of lighter skin tone, all they have to say is, "Oh, I love you, I accept you," and you melanated people are just gonna go down to their knees and cry because they want the validation so bad. And this is why on my channel I talk a lot about self-love, history, and things that we can learn from our past, because when we don't validate ourselves and we allow others to reclassify us, re-identify us, tell us who we are, tell us how to act. When you melanated indigenous people try to prove that they are caring, loving, considerate, they accept people, I see it as tap dancing at this point, because these people know that we are accepting. These people know that our own will literally run over each other just to be in the presence of a pale person. Racial whitening has done a number on you melanated indigenous people. So when she say, "Oh, well, why can't we just all get along and we all still indigenous people," people forget that it's more than just skin tones, right? She's just saying, "Oh, well, it's just pale and dark." Like, it's so much more to that, because you can be an indigenous person and still be light skinned, but have the indigenous features of what an indigenous person will look like. So, you know, some people in the there was a person in the comment section said, "Oh, well, I took as what she said being pale or light skin as albino."
Boy, if you don't.
Well, albinos are albinos, sir. Like, you can definitely tell the difference between an albino and a pale native person. Okay, there's a clear difference. We cannot sit here and pretend that people are actively seeking to erase our history, because that's the whole reason why paper genocide took place, to erase our identities and to erase our existence here in the Americas. So when people say, "Oh, well, yeah, they Indian, but they just look white," like, okay, no, there's no such thing as a white Indian. Now, there are instances in my content where I do say white native, but I want people to realize who and what you are calling as an indigenous person. You know this person is white deep down inside. Y'all know these people come from Europe. Y'all know these people look like Europe, but y'all want to sit here and say that they're not and that they're indigenous. You want to say that they are part of the original people team too? You want to say they are part of the origine? Nah, no, no, no. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Now, I don't know if she related to a native or not. I see a lot of you melanated indigenous people who are related to the Pale Natives, they want to keep the peace and they want to be on good terms with everybody because that's their family and they want to be on good terms with family, and I understand that, and that's why I'm not demonizing her. I'm not saying she's just the worst individual ever. I'm saying there's a lack of realization here. There's a lack of coming to terms with what really happened to melanated indigenous people, because a lot of people forget that a lot of these natives and their forefathers and mothers, they helped Europeans erase and control the narrative about our identity. Because I remember the days of being in Native American news, and there were so many natives, right, that was attacking us, that were saying that we were liars and that we were Africans, that were pretending to be indigenous or whatever. But there were also many of them that were in our inboxes saying, "Oh, about time y'all start claiming your indigenous identity. About time, this and that." And it's like, if you knew, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you correct the people in the comment section that were saying all these racist things, that was calling us the N-word, that was over here talking about weaves and crime rate and all the other stuff that has nothing to do with a person's ancestry? On the topic of genealogy, it seems to be ignored the most. It seems to be ignored the most. And sure, we can sit here and say, "Oh, well, no, there are Indians that do look white, but they are descended from indigenous people that were listed on the Indian rolls or whatever." That don't mean nothing. We talk about $5 Indians all day, every day on my channel. I know when y'all look at my comment section, there's going to be at least one person that says $5 Indian. Okay? So don't sit here and talk about, "Oh, well, the documentation." Like, okay, who knows that the ancestor that they claiming to be indigenous ain't white too? Or European too, or a white settler that was granted land allotment that was supposed to be given to a Eumelanated indigenous person, but because they immigrated here or because they were poor and couldn't get a head start, the government gave it to them by giving them the land that was supposed to be given to us. No one is not putting this information in full circle. And I just got to be the bad guy. I just got to be that person to bring it to people's attention, because y'all not going to sit here and talk about unity and coming together with people who are still trying to erase our identity. Because although there are more natives that are coming to our channels and saying that they agree and that they understand our existence, but they still be backtracking. They still will side with the people that gave birth to them, which is those pale Europeans or them pale natives. I'm so sick of people trying to say that white is indigenous, and white would never be indigenous. Not even white looking would be indigenous. We can validate the indigenous ancestry a person has, because if they are related to a melanated indigenous person, all right, cool, fine. No one's not arguing against that. The documentation is there, the bloodline is there, they family. No one's not arguing against that. But however, when people sit here and say, "Oh, well, white people can be indigenous too," it just shows to me that people really do lack the understanding and comprehension behind racial whitening. When your family, when your bloodline has been mixing with pale Europeans for so long, you cannot be shocked or surprised when the offspring starts to look more and more like the pale Europeans. And pretty much at that point, their bloodline is more pale European than Aboriginal American or Indigenous American or whatever label y'all are sticking with, okay? Because I'm not going to argue with labels, okay? So, with that being said, people don't understand the saying, bleaching out the Indian. So what y'all are doing when y'all say white natives or pale natives, white looking natives can be indigenous too, you are reassuring, you are validating the racial whitening of you melanated indigenous American people. We still live in a racial hierarchy. This racial hierarchy or the caste system has been around since the 1500s. Therefore, since then, mixed Indians, pale natives have been put in the forefront of indigenous identity. And when you melanated indigenous Americans over validate their ancestry, especially over their own, these people will continue to be the standard of indigenous identity. And this is why I say so many you melanated indigenous American people are in love with quote unquote white supremacy, because you know these people are trying to erase you, trying to erase our identity, trying to erase our existence, and you're still open arms saying, please love me. Why won't you validate me? Why can't we all get along? It's the same old song. Whether we are labeled as indigenous or black, pale people are fighting to be seen as the standard. These people are literally whitewashing every category they put us in, from Indian to Negro to black. They want to say, oh, well, I'm the original of these terms. You know, I'm the standard of an Indian. I'm the standard of a black person. So even when they reclassified our people, they still wanted to be put in the forefront as the standard. And a lot of you melanated indigenous people are not getting that these people are obsessed. These people are obsessed and don't want to pay the money to be the obsessive person. You want to stalk, you want to harass, you want a piece of the cake too, but you don't want to pay? You don't want to compensate for putting us through all this BS? Putting our ancestors through emotional trauma, physical trauma? And that's what irks me the most. Our ancestors, our elders, a lot of them will never know peace. And a lot of them are still traumatized by what the natives and the pale Europeans put them through. And no one has never apologized to them. So I don't want to hear nothing about unity until we get our apologies in cash. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank y'all guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't, and click the all notifications button to get notified when I go live and when I upload a new video. But yeah, thank y'all guys for watching, and until the next time,